Hey everyone, welcome back to the By Way of Commandment podcast. I am your host, Jacob Ryder. We got another little mini episode here about learning Hebrew. So I said I was going to do an episode about Hebrew every week, and I'm going to try my best to stick to that. And I realized after posting last week's video, which if you haven't seen that, please go check that out. But I realized that after I posted that video that it might be helpful to point out a couple resources that I've been using for the last year or so that have helped me the most in learning Hebrew. Now, there's a lot of different books, websites, resources, all sorts of language learning programs out there. Many of them are good, I'm sure. I've used a handful of them, and I can tell you what my personal favorites are and what I think have helped me the most. And I want to break this down into kind of two different avenues. When we look at learning Hebrew, I think most language learning apps or programs that you can buy or use for free online are going to be kind of modern day speaking Hebrew. My personal favorites that I've used more recently are Duolingo and HebrewPod101.com. Those two sites or apps I think are really good. They offer free versions, so to speak. Duolingo, I believe, is free kind of no matter what. You can pay for the premium if you want to. I don't see why you would, but in any case, HebrewPod101.com has different kind of tiers, and free being the basic level, which I think does a phenomenal job for what it is. And both of these resources teach you how to read and speak modern Hebrew, which I think is pretty invaluable. I personally use Duolingo the most, but to be quite frank, I think HebrewPod 101 is a little bit more in depth and gives you more variations of words, a little bit more detailed instruction into sentence structuring and all of that. But you can't beat the easiness of using Duolingo. It's really simple and easy to use. Anyways, that's kind of the modern day Hebrew speaking side of things. But I'm sure most of you, like me, you don't want to just learn how to speak and read modern Hebrew. You want to understand how to read biblical Hebrew. You want to be able to go into the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, as us Christians would say, and read it and understand what it's saying. And not just at a cursory level, at a surface level, but you want to understand the depth of meaning, the poetry, the play on words, all the different ways that you can understand the Hebrew Bible that give you where the real meaning comes from. And for that, I did purchase a book, a couple in fact, but the one that I've used the most and the one that I feel is probably the best out of all of them is a book by a guy named Lambden, who I believe was a professor at a university, and his book is simply Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. It's got a green cover. It's a fairly thick book. In fact, I'll with this video, I'll post the actual picture of each of these books, so you know what they look like. But that one by Lambden I found to be the most helpful and most in-depth. But I'm going to be honest, I am not the greatest with learning languages. In fact, I struggle quite a bit. And so while I say that I've been studying Hebrew off and on for about a year and a half, the truth of the matter is there are many of you who are going to be studying for a month and a half and already blow me out of the water. That's just the way it is. I struggle quite a bit with trying to learn new languages, which also makes it frustrating, but at the same time rewarding when I learn new things. But I would suggest that if you'd like to learn how to read and understand biblical Hebrew, Lambden's book is the way to go. bar none, I think it's the easiest to get into, and offers incredible depth in learning just how to read, and it goes through everything you'll need to know about sentence structure, word choice, vocabulary. There's you get only a short way into the book, and you're already starting to read actual passages from the Hebrew Bible. And by the end of the book, you're pretty much able to read most, if not everything, in the Hebrew Bible and understand it, at least with some depth. But even that, I've still struggled to use to understand Hebrew. And when I was initially trying to learn Hebrew a year and a half ago, I got some of these books, some of these resources. I was doing my best, and still things weren't quite clicking, and I was having trouble remembering the certain Hebrew characters in the alphabet, or the aleph-bet, and the different symbols that come with each of the characters that represent consonants, or vowels rather. And so what I did was I went online and I found another book, and I'll post it here. This is How to Read Hebrew in 6 Weeks. And I have to tell you, this book is essentially made for children.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
It is made to teach someone the very basic fundamentals of how to pronounce the characters, how to pronounce them in various words. It goes over all of that, and it's so basic. And the way I know it's for children is because it does so as a nice little picture book. So I'm gonna post that as well in this video, so you can see what that book looks like. But I've quite honestly found that to be the most helpful of any of the resources that I've used, and I refer back to it quite frequently because it lays things out so neatly and nicely in a way that my 5-year-old brain can understand. That really helps me when I dive into some of the other books and resources, when I'm trying to learn how to pronounce things, when I'm trying to understand what a word means. I can always refer back to this book because it's so plainly laid out in a way that non-native speakers can understand. So I think that's about it for today. I just wanted to share a few of the resources that I've been using that have helped me the most. There are many others that out there, and if you know of other resources that you've used in your own studies, then let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there are some of you who have not yet started to learn Hebrew, or who would like to, and maybe feel like you could benefit from some of these other resources. And so talk to each other in the comment section. Let each other know what resources you've been using. I know I've had a handful of people reach out over the last few months asking me what resources I use, and so I've told them, but I thought it might be beneficial to talk about it in a video here. So that's all I had for today. I look forward to next week when we get back to some actual Hebrew, and to hear from you of what resources you guys have been using. And until next time, see you in the next video.